Well, hello there, YouTube. We have a bunch of trades and Monday's action coming up. But before we do that, please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. FBT is up next. We have even more trades and a bunch of action to recap. Welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on Tuesday, August 2nd. Frank Stampfl joined by Scott White. Only our, third podcast of the day, technically, Scott. I'm losing count. But anyway, we've got a lot to talk about. Today on the podcast, we'll recap the latest trades. Your Atlanta Braves have been a little bit busy. Take a look at July's leaders. I have a hitter to buy. If you could still buy. I feel like most trade deadlines either are happening right now, approaching, maybe just passed, but maybe.
I don't think we're there yet. I think most trade deadlines are after the actual trade deadline, aren't they? Most fantasy deadlines. I think we got a couple more weeks still.
I don't know, because my leagues are kind of all over the place. One of them is tomorrow when we're recording this. I know the Dynasty League was on Sunday, and then I have a few that are a couple of weeks in advance, so it depends.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, there hasn't really been a standard established, I feel like, for when the trade deadline should be in fantasy baseball.
That's true.
But I think a lot of people have some time left.
All right. Well, good news then. I do have a hitter that I would like to buy. Jesus Luzardo made his return and much more. But let's jump in.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Oh, my goodness gracious. The standout from Monday. Scott asked me before we started, who is the breadstick? There was no breadstick. So who are you going with?
Going with the bowl of soup, I guess. I am going with my favorite player coming into the year, Salvador Ding Dong Perez, who did it again. Oops, he did it again here on Monday. He's been back 4 games from this thumb surgery. He's homered 3 times. And this home run here on Monday was something to behold, friends. He killed that ball to right center. Officially, it was 452 feet.
Damn.
I heard a lot of skepticism from folks on the Royals who thought it was more like 500. You just got to see it for yourself. It was a massive, massive shot for Salvador Ding Dong Perez. And like I said, 3 and 4 games since he returned. Just seeing the enormity of that home run should serve as a reminder. Like, it wasn't a fluke that he hit 48 home runs last year. I suppose you could argue it was a fluke in the sense that no catcher had ever done it before. And so, probably safe not to bet on a catcher doing it again, at least not for a very long time. But Salvador Perez, this wasn't Brady Anderson hitting 50 home runs in 1996. Salvador Perez crunches the ball, like extremely hard contact. And you wonder, given that this thumb injury sidelined him twice, just how long he was dealing with it, if it may have kept his numbers down early in the year in a way we weren't hearing about, because he certainly seems ready to make up for lost time now.
So anybody watching on YouTube, my eyes were looking at my side computer here, and they lit up. What was I looking at? I was watching that home run, Scott. That was an insane shot. Like, it looked 500 feet. So I don't know how accurate 452 is, but that was a mammoth home run for Salvador Perez. And you're right. We hear about injuries a lot. A lot of the times it's like after the season, we don't know how long a player has been playing through an injury. DJ LeMahieu comes to mind last year, and we'll talk about him a little bit later on the podcast. But Salvador Perez, you're right. He's back, 3 homers in 4 games. The batted ball data, 89th percentile average exit velocity, 82nd percentile barrel rate. He's not one of the best in terms of hard contact this year like he was last year, but still really, really good for a catcher.
Yeah.
So,
and the thumb may have been holding him back.
True. So, I'm thinking better days coming here in the second half for Salvi, as long as he can stay healthy. Fingers crossed. For me, oh my goodness gracious, Spenser Watkins, I feel like we talk about him whenever he has a good start, but we just kind of brush it under the rug. We're like, it's Spenser Watkins. Is there anything actually here? I don't know. Let's talk about it. Another strong start at the Texas Rangers. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts to 0 walks. He only had 7 swinging strikes in this one. What is he doing differently this year? He is throwing a new slider this season, about 18%, which has been a pretty good pitch for him. It's doesn't have a crazy whiff rate or anything, but the results have been solid. That's really what stands out as the biggest difference for him so far this season. 6 starts since rejoining the Orioles rotation. Spenser Watkins, a 1.85 ERA, 26 strikeouts, just 5 walks. So the control has been fantastic during that time. 11.6% swinging strike rate. So that's pretty good, Scott. I like that. It's good ballpark now to pitch in Camden, 21% rostered. This isn't a standard league ad or anything, but in deeper leagues, Spenser Watkins is kind of interesting right now. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if he can maintain that those ratios over that smaller stretch you're referring to, I mean, that sounds like a decent enough pitcher. Not going to be a high end type necessarily, but somebody you could start with the right matchups. If those are ratios he can sustain, if he can continue to strike out, continue to get whiffs on 11% of his pitches, and keep the walks down like he has, I'm skeptical. But among pitchers who it's getting hard to find pitchers on the waiver wire, right? And at least that we can talk about in this context where we're like, oh, this guy's less than 50% rostered. It's hard to have anyone to talk about in that range at that position. So I guess we're forced to kind of like somebody at some point just because we can't not like everybody. I don't know. You could tell I'm trying really hard to say something nice about Spenser Watkins.
I remain skeptical too. It's overall that I think the ERA is still a touch over 4, but this recent stretch that he's on, he's pitching well, and the Orioles pitchers in general have performed pretty well this season. So looks like they either figured something out, or obviously the changes they made to the ballpark have been helping their pitchers so long.
Oh well, yeah, there's that.
This season.
We probably need to talk about that more because we've talked. Oh, this guy has a huge fly ball rate, and yeah, that might be having an impact on some of these guys. That's a good point.
All right, so again, not a must add by any means. Shallower leagues, throw him on the scout team. Let's see where it goes. But Spenser Watkins pitching very well right now. Scott, I don't think there's anything here. It's a pretty light night in terms of waiver wire pitchers. But Aaron Sanchez struck out 8 against the Tigers, 5 innings, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, 17 swinging strikes on 81 pitches. His ERA is over 7. I don't think there's anything here, but what do you think?
Well, yeah, and he hadn't made a start since he was in the Nationals organization back in May. And I don't know if he performed so well against the Tigers here that maybe he earned another turn, but there was talk it would just be a one-off anyway with Devin Smeltzer rejoining the rotation next time through. So I would agree. Aaron Sanchez, we could probably pass over. Hunter Greene isn't, still available in like a quarter of CBS sports leagues. And he had a good start.
He had an amazing start at the Marlins. Yeah. 6 shutout, only 1 base runner in this game, 1 hit allowed, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts, 15 swinging strikes, 10 of those coming on the slider. His 127 strikeouts are 10th best in baseball this season, 79% rostered. So you're talking about 10-team leagues, maybe some shallower points leagues or something like that.
Yeah. Or, you may be listening and don't play on CBS, in which case he might be much more available in your league. But he seems like he's, 3 of his last 4 have been really good. I think in one of them he walked 4, and so that's still an issue from time to time. But as you point out, the strikeouts are beginning to pile up for Hunter Greene. It helped that he was facing the Marlins this time, I understand. But there's clearly ability here, and I would say the gap needs to close on that roster rate. He needs to get to a point where we can't cite him as a potential waiver wire pickup in any context because he's just too rostered for that. I'm not saying he's must start, but I'm saying the good starts are frequent enough now that he's worth rostering for the right matchups.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he should be on your roster, but you do kind of have to play the matchups with him Last 2 starts against the Marlins, obviously fantastic matchups there. He is only 41% rostered if you play on Yahoo. So that
There
is
you go. See, it makes
Hunter
a big
Greene.
difference. Makes a big difference where you play.
Yeah, that is massive. What about on the other side? Jesus Luzardo made his return to the rotation. First start since May 10th. He went 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, 5 strikeouts to 0 walks. Love to see the control there for him. 12 swinging strikes on 81 pitches. And change up his pitch mix first start back here. Ditched his 4-seam fastball. Sinker was his primary fastball. So earlier this year, he was throwing his sinker about 17% and his 4-seam 30%. So accounting for almost 50% of his pitches. He only threw his sinker in this one. No 4-seam fastball, and he threw the sinker 40% in the start. That is Jesus Luzardo. And Scott, I kind of feel like this is something that might work for him because he has the breaking pitch and the changeup where he can get whiffs on those. And then he can use the sinker to maybe help improve his ground ball rate and his efficiency and go deeper into starts. So I'm kind of interested in this pitch mix change for Jesus Luzardo. What do you think?
Well, I liked what we saw from him before the injury more, where he was just where that 4-seam fastball itself became a weapon because he was throwing it so much harder. Now, I don't know if he decided with the elbow issue that he can't sustain that over the long haul. It's possible. And maybe he will. Maybe the sinker will work better for the overall arsenal in that case. But I still think the winning strategy for Jesus Luzardo, regardless of what fastball he throws, regardless of how hard he throws it, is to just feature his curveball and changeup more. He did throw the changeup quite a bit more in this one, and that was nice to see because it's been, he threw it only 15% of the time before the injury, but it's been his best swing and miss pitch. He threw the curveball a little less in this one. So, like you said, it kind of seems like he's experimenting a little with that arsenal and maybe thinking about making some changes as he recovers from this elbow injury. But overall, you can't complain about the results for Luzardo first start back.
All right. I do have an update actually, because I just went back to Baseball Savant and they have changed the pitches that he used after the fact. So he still did throw a 4-seam fastball in this one,
Okay.
17%, and his sinker 22%. So,
well, in which case that fastball, the velocity was down a little from where it was earlier in the year. Let me see exactly how much.
The 4-seam, so they updated this after the fact, was down nearly 2 miles per hour compared to where it was earlier in the season. So that's pretty big.
Okay. So all those, hang on a second. All those sinkers were 4-seamers, you're saying?
No, so earlier in the night, it was just 40% sinker. And then after the fact, I guess they found a way to decipher the different pitches.
Okay.
It was 22% sinker, 17% 4-seam.
So the 4-seam fastball was his 4th most thrown pitch, and the velocity was down 1.8. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Between these two, Scott, who would you rather have, Luzardo or Hunter Greene?
I would say Luzardo.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the rest of the trades that happened here on Monday and leading into Tuesday. Should be a pretty fun day. The Cardinals acquired Jose Quintana and reliever Chris Stratton from the Pirates for pitcher Johan Oviedo and infielder Malcolm Nunez. Quintana this season, we've mentioned quite a bit. 3.50 ERA, 1.27 whip, 45% ground ball rate. He's 30% rostered. And I like this move, Scott, because look, for obvious reasons, the run support should be better, but really good defense behind him. Obviously moving to one of the best organizations in baseball with the Cardinals. And for what it's worth, they have the second easiest remaining schedule the Cardinals do based on opponent winning percentage. So really good schedule remaining for Quintana, good team, 30% rostered. Are you more excited to go out and pick up Quintana now?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to. That's it doesn't get much better than leaving the Pirates for a team that's contending for something. That's a pretty big upgrade there. I mean, I don't think there's a ton of upside for Quintana still, but I think he can, as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, having a 3.50 ERA on the year, I'd like to see him go 6 innings more consistently, and maybe the Cardinals will make different decisions with him in, as far as that goes. But I think he could be. I mean, he was already kind of a matchups type, but I think he could be even a better matchups type now, I guess.
Would you rather have Jose Quintana or Spenser Watkins?
I'd rather have Quintana.
I think so too. Let's talk about those Braves, Scott. They're making moves. They have officially acquired Robbie Grossman from the Tigers, and it sounds like they're acquiring Jake Odorizzi as well. I know that trade wasn't confirmed by the team yet, but it seems like it's trending that way. What are your takeaways here for Grossman and Odorizzi?
Not much to say for Grossman. He's always been a lefty masher, so I presume he's going to form kind of a platoon with Eddie Rosario. I don't know how strict it'll be, but it's not like Eddie Rosario's particularly top of mind in fantasy right now anyway. The more concerning one is Jake Odorizzi, and I say concerning not because of what it means for him, but because of what it could potentially mean for Spencer Strider. Don't do it, guys. Don't take Spencer Strider out of the rotate. We don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that. The baseball world would weep if the Braves remove Spencer Strider, whose starts have become as close to must watch as anyone's starts. I mean, when Spencer Strider's warming up for his start, pitching ninja's cracking his knuckles, getting ready to capture some footage to share on the Twitter machine. And it'd be sad if he, there's a justification for it. The innings, he didn't throw that. He didn't. How many did he throw last year?
I just calculated last year, 96 1/3. That's everything.
So he's already over that, right? Not by much, but
no, he's at 80 1/3 this season.
Okay. So
he's got some wiggle room, man.
Yeah, he has wiggle room. And I could be like kind of I could be being think of the worst case scenario here. Maybe they're just going to go 6-man to kind of slow him down a little bit, slow down Ian Anderson, Kyle Wright, space out their starts a little more so that they're able to do what they need to do in the playoffs as well. Maybe Jake Odorizzi will just be a spot starter. I mean, they didn't really have anyone to fall back on, especially after Kyle Muller got hurt in the minors. There was no, who would be next if they needed somebody to start. They didn't really have anybody. So it makes sense from that perspective. But, the Astros really didn't think Odorizzi was capable of pitching out of the bullpen. So I don't know what role he has if he's not a starter. And yeah, I don't want to see them remove Strider. Nobody wants to see them remove Strider from the rotation because he's been a great fantasy asset in that role.
Yeah, he's a borderline top 25 ranked starting pitcher for all three of you, Chris, and myself. That's Spencer Strider that we're talking about. So strikeouts have been awesome. Whiff rate has been amazing. We want to continue to see him start. Again, I think there's some wiggle room here. So
yeah, there is.
I hope that's not the case. Maybe this is just a depth add for the Braves.
But they also traded Will Smith in the deal.
Correct.
Which if the deal goes through as expected, which means that there's an opening in the bullpen now.
Yeah.
So that's and another thing is I don't if I heard the Braves were acquiring Jake Odorizzi a week ago, I would have said, oh, this probably means they're going to send Ian Anderson down to the minors to get right. But he's coming off his best start in a very long time. So I don't think that's the plan, at least not right away.
Yeah, we were talking beforehand about how the trade of Will Smith might mean that they want Strider back in the bullpen because now they have that opening. So obviously one's a righty and one's a lefty. We'll see how it plays out. But we're just going to put that idea in your mind that there is a chance that Spencer Strider gets moved to the bullpen as a result of this move, although we're not rooting for that. Christian Vasquez was traded to the Astros for infielder Emmanuel Valdez and outfielder Wilyer Abreu. And Vasquez this season was batting .282 with 8 homers, 42 RBI. His 2.4 fantasy points per game tied for 14th at the catcher position. and he was the 8th best catcher in Roto and categories leagues. I don't think that there's a big park shift change. Obviously, right-handed batters in Fenway is a great place to hit as well. But the lineup is, I would say, at least a little bit better. So could be stock up here for Christian Vasquez.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the 8th best catcher to this point already exceeded what I expected for him coming into the season. So, I'm not counting on much changing for him with this move. I do think the player the Red Sox acquired in Manuel Valdez is very interesting. His numbers between AA and AAA this year. Do you have those, Frank?
I don't have them here on the rundown, but I can pull them up. And he's someone that whenever I look at last 30 days, I do it every couple of weeks just on the minor league baseball website. He's someone that always pops up. So.
Yeah. I mean, he's been on fire all season long. So between double and AAA, he's batting .327, 21 homers, a 1016 OPS in 82 games. He doesn't place high on traditional prospect lists for a couple reasons. He has that positionless thing going on that always seems to deflate a hitter's stock, where they've tried him in a bunch of different places. I'm not sure that they're totally thrilled with him at any of those spots. The one he has played the most, though, this year is second base, where the Red Sox currently have an opening with Trevor Story on the IL. And then the other reason is he's 5'9". So you wouldn't expect somebody of that size to generate the kind of power he is. But I feel like when there's a player who's, dominating to that extent and isn't getting much credit from traditional prospect evaluators, more often than not, the traditional evaluators, it looks like a miss for them. That's not always the case. Sometimes they're proven absolutely right. I think of Josh Rojas. I say that, but Josh Rojas, he's a factor. He's not a nobody. Mm-hmm. He's just not nearly as good as he was in that 2019 season when he would destroy, he took a wrecking ball to the minors, basically, the way and Manuel Valdez has been doing. But, long story short, I think Manuel Valdez was already somebody who deserved more attention in dynasty leagues. It's just kind of a pick him up. Maybe he gets called up this year, maybe he doesn't. But you see where it goes, see where he goes with it. And I think that, now that his name is in the headlines again because of this Christian Vasquez trade, I think that goes double.
All right. The next move that the Red Sox made, they acquired Tommy Pham for a player to be named later. And it seems like Tommy Pham should fit into left field for the Boston Red Sox, unless I'm missing something right now.
Well,
they have an open, like they have Jackie Bradley, but
right,
Jackie Bradley. So
yeah, no, I suspect Pham, who by the way has been a top 40 outfielder in both of the scoring formats, so he hasn't been.
He's really slowed down over the past month, but
and he's hitting like 230 overall. He hasn't lived up to our hopes when we see that 91st percentile average exit velocity for him, and I suspect his value doesn't change much with this move either. There's always a chance when a player goes to a park as unorthodox as Fenway, it has a tendency to inflate players' BABIPs, and maybe Tommy Pham, as hard as he hits the ball, it'll play a little better there. He gets a lot of cheap hits off the Green Monster or whatever. There is that chance. I'm not betting on it, but I'm going to keep an open mind with it.
I guess we should point out, going from the NL to the AL, that's a pretty massive add for anyone who plays in AL only leagues. So Tommy Pham will become available for you. He is 62% rostered on CBS. A couple other moves. Jake Diekman was traded to the Red Sox. Does that make sense? Or was he traded to the White Sox? I think he was traded to the White Sox.
Yeah, he was already a Red Sox.
He was already too many Sox going on here. He was traded to the White Sox in exchange for catcher Reese McGuire. So that should help fill the void left behind by Christian Vasquez. Luke Weaver was traded to the Royals in exchange for third baseman Emmanuel Rivera. We did a Josh Hader emergency podcast earlier on Monday where we talked about Esteury Ruiz potentially playing center field for the Brewers. well, he's already been optioned to AAA with his new team, so I don't think we'll see him at least for the foreseeable future here with the Brewers. And then the latest rumors, the Cardinals are unwilling to include Dylan Carlson and their top prospects for Juan Soto, which doesn't really make much sense to me, but we'll see. The Cardinals.
It depends how many top prospects they're talking about there, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that Dylan Carlson should be the hang-up, as that the phrasing of that tweet makes it sound.
What do you think the package looks like at this point, Scott? Is it Mason Wynn, Jordan Walker, Dylan Carlson plus?
I mean, if the Cardinals can get it done without trading Jordan Walker, like just pile as many names on there as you need to for the Nationals to accept it without Walker. You know, Gordon Graceffo has been brought up.
Yeah.
Um,
I can't imagine.
Nolan Gorman has been brought up. I think I'd be willing to move all of them if it allowed me to keep Jordan Walker, because Walker's the one guy in the organization, you know, not counting established stars like Goldschmidt and Arenado. Jordan Walker's the one guy in the organization who I think has that perennial all-star type upside that you're getting with Soto.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's always a long shot that a prospect lives up to that upside. So there's still an argument to be made for including Jordan Walker. But if there's a way to do it without including him, you know, I think the Cardinals would be crazy to pass that up.
Yeah.
Because you get 2.5 years of him. It's not like this is a rental. You know, it's not even close to it. 2.5 years. Inside track on re-signing him potentially.
And I'll look, on the flip side, if you're the Nationals, of course you don't want to make a trade without getting Jordan Walker in that deal. So
yeah,
we'll see. Should be a very hectic Tuesday here. Cardinals, Padres, and Dodgers are still leading the charge there for Juan Soto. And speaking of the Dodgers, they do have interest in Pablo Lopez. And I saw Ian Happ is a fallback option if they miss out on Juan Soto. We will save the July leaders for after the break. But before we do that, just a reminder to join our Facebook group if you haven't already. Facebook.com/groups/fantasy baseball today, or just go on Facebook, search up Fantasy Baseball Today, and you'll be able to find the group. You could join up. A lot of people asking waiver wire questions, trades, keeper, dynasty, anything that you have, lineup decisions, you could throw it in there. It's a really fun community. Make sure to join up if you haven't already. We'll take a break and be back right after this. The news and notes. Fernando Tatis felt good taking batting practice on Monday, and he expects to begin a rehab assignment later in the week, mid-August. It's looking like a real possibility for Fernando Tatis. Hopefully.
Remember when we thought it was going to be June 1st?
Oh, man. No more motorcycles, Fernando Tatis. That's my biggest takeaway. Bryce Harper had his pins removed from his left thumb on Monday, and like Fernando Tatis, we're looking at a mid-August timeline there. Austin Riley, Scott, I don't know. You can kind of break this down. I don't really know what's going on. It's just interesting timing. Austin Riley signed a 10-year, $212 million contract with a club option for 2033. Now, he's 25 years old. He's in the running for the MVP. You can argue, you know, play out your team control years and hit free agency and maybe make more money. The security of a 10-year contract and over $200 million, that's a lot of money. I don't know. I kind of see both sides. What do you think, Scott?
Well, I mean, the Braves have never given this much money to anybody all at once, or assigned anybody to a deal this long. So it's a record-setting contract for Austin Riley in a couple ways. And their previous biggest contract handed out, by the way, was Matt Olson after they traded for him earlier this year, and this exceeds that one by like $80 million. You know, I'm a creature of habit. I like to feel comfortable. I don't like having my world rocked every 3 or 4 years. Personally, I think if I'm happy in a place and they make a competitive offer for me that's gonna give me lifetime financial stability, I'd probably take it too. I realize not everybody's wired that way. Some people like to move around a bunch, but that's I think Austin Riley's happy. He's getting a raise in the immediate term because I think this was his first year of arbitration this year. So, that the way arbitration, there's the gradual salary increases from year to year. He's going to get more money up front. And of course, doesn't have to worry about a setback or a decline or an injury or anything like that. He's locked in for $22 million a year. I guess it averages $21 million a year, but most of those years he's making $22 million for the next decade. And yeah, I mean, it shows a lot of faith on the Braves' part, giving him this unprecedented contract. We were just talking yesterday, MVP caliber production 2 years in a row. That probably means he's legit, and I guess the Braves feel the same way.
And the Braves now have Riley, Acuna, Albies, and Matt Olson all signed through 2027 is what I saw. So the nucleus is around for quite some time there with the Atlanta Braves. Chris Bryant was placed on the IL with plantar fasciitis in his left foot. It's not the back, it's the foot. It's something, it's this, it's that. Rough go here for Chris Bryant, his first season in Colorado. Luis Severino was transferred to the 60-day IL on Monday, which means he is not eligible to return until September 13th. And I think that means you could drop him in any leagues with no IL spots. Again, that is Luis Severino. Dustin May is set to make 2 more rehab starts before returning from the IL. He threw 46 pitches in his most recent rehab outing, and he is up to 74% rostered. So probably a couple of weeks away here for Dustin May. Rough season for Franmil Reyes, Scott. The Guardians are expected to option Reyes to AAA prior to Tuesday's game. I know he's hitting around 210, 37% strikeout rate. We've seen some flashes here and there. It looks like he's coming around and then kind of falls flat on his face again. So, rough season here for Franmil Reyes. Alex Bregman was placed on the paternity list and will miss 1 to 3 days. Tarek Skubal left his start with left arm fatigue. He did throw 5 shutout innings against the Twins before leaving that start. John Gray left his start with left side discomfort and had a pretty juicy 2-start week lined up. So pretty unfortunate for John Gray. Trevor Rogers scheduled to throw a bullpen session Tuesday or Wednesday. He was placed on the IL last Friday with lower back spasms. And Will Benson was promoted by the Guardians on Monday. Just a name to throw on the scout team, deeper leagues. 24-year-old outfielder was batting .278, 17 homers, 16 steals, a .948 OPS in 89 games at AAA. And he was a former first-round pick back in 2016. So it's been quite some time. The name there, Will Benson. Maybe add him in AL-only leagues and see where it goes. Let's take a look at the leaders from July, Scotty, and we'll start with the hitting side of things. Batting average, no surprise. I think we mentioned his name on every podcast last week. Alec Boehm, .434 batting average for the month. And just behind him, this will be a common theme today, Austin Riley, .423 batting average for the month. Home runs, Aaron Judge hit 13 in July. Austin Riley, 11. Runs scored, Aaron Judge, 25 runs scored in July. DJ LeMahieu, 24 runs scored. And I want to stop right there, Scott, because we haven't talked about DJ LeMahieu in a while. And he went 3 for 4 on Monday. Over his last 28 games, he's hitting .364, 4 homers, 28 runs, 11 RBI, 2 steals. He is the 3rd best second baseman in head-to-head points over the last 28 days and the 29th overall player in roto/category leagues during that stretch. So, we had some skepticism. We didn't really know how to rank DJ LeMahieu coming into the season. Dealt with an injury last year, had off-season surgery. Kind of just looks like DJ LeMahieu. Like, the power has bounced back a little bit. He's not going to be like a 20-plus home run hitter anymore, but batting average, runs, power that doesn't kill you. He looks like DJ LeMahieu again.
Well, I mean, the last 2 months he's hit 4 home runs in each. I know you gave a stretch that was like the last month, basically, but if you take it back 2 months to the start of June, DJ LeMahieu is batting .317 with 8 home runs and an OPS near 900. So that does look like the DJ LeMahieu we saw in 2019 and 2020. His first couple years with the Yankees, where he was an out-and-out stud in fantasy. And he's eligible at second, as you mentioned. He's eligible at third. I think he's eligible at first, but why would you use him there when he's eligible at the other two spots? And I don't know. We have seen the ball play because remember, we were attributing his decline last year to the deadened ball that then was even used more prevalently at the start of this year. But we've seen it. We've seen the environment change a lot in the last 2 months, and I don't think it's a coincidence that DJ LeMahieu's power production has returned during that time. So it just makes it even harder to evaluate. I mean, I think for the rest of the season, you can just lock DJ and LeMahieu in at any of the spots where he's eligible and enjoy his production. But heading into next year, it's still going to be a bit of a quandary where to rank him.
What just happened, Scott?
I got this little fidget toy. It's a soccer ball that you spin. And so I keep it on my desk and spin it a lot, and it just fell off. That's what happened.
Alrighty. DJ LeMahieu, the home run to fly ball ratio plummeted last year. I think a lot of it had to do with the injury that he was playing through. 7.7% home run to fly ball ratio in the shortened 2020. That was 27%. He was never going to repeat that. But I think last year just went too far the other way. Now this year he's at 12.8%, which that seems pretty appropriate, I think, given this environment and just the skill set of DJ LeMahieu. So something like 15 home runs. He's going to approach 100 runs scored. Great batting average. His OBP is 394. He's got a career high 13.7% walk rate. Lots of like for DJ LeMahieu, especially if you're playing a points league or OBP. He's been very good. It's happy to see him back on track. RBI leaders in July: Aaron Judge, 32. Austin Riley had 25. Matt Olson, his teammate, also had 25. So nice to see those Atlanta Braves coming around. Steals: Ronald Acuna had 9 steals. Bobby Witt Jr. had 8. Scott, do you have any concerns over Acuna? I've seen some Twitter folks talking about him, and first year back from torn ACL, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt, but the power and the RBIs are really hurting you for Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a little off. I think he's a little off, and I think he could just catch fire at any moment. Will he run out of time here on, I'm talking on August 2nd now? It's possible the calendar just runs out on him and he doesn't quite get locked in. But I don't think there's been a loss of skill or anything. And yeah, I don't have, like, long term, I don't have any concerns at all. The fact he's running as aggressively as he is, I mean, that would have been the main thing I was worried about coming off that knee surgery.
You mentioned he's just off, and you see it in the batted ball distribution all season long. 49.7% ground ball rate. That's by far a career high for Ronald Acuna. So that puts a cap on his power upside, and his infield fly ball rate, nearly 16%. Again, that's more than double his career average. So,
well, and both of those could be an indication of a guy who's pressing too. He's just, he knows he's not performing up to his usual standards, and he's trying to hit 3 home runs every at bat. And you see a lot more pop-ups and ground balls when a guy's doing that.
For our StatCast crowd, I did have some barrel leaders for July. You guessed it. Aaron Judge and Austin Riley each had 20 for the month. But the one I wanted to mention here, Scott, Eloy Jimenez. He was 5th on this list with 13 barrels in July. And during that time, 95 mile per hour average exit velocity, just a 39% ground ball rate. So in the past, hitting the ball on the ground too much has been a huge issue for Eloy Jimenez. But since returning from injury, he's putting the ball in the air. He's hitting the ball really hard. It's a big if he can stay healthy for the rest of the season, I think eventually you'll start to see more of these results come around. So that was the hitter I was referring to earlier, where if you could still buy players, trade for players, I would be looking to acquire Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, and I think it would be highly attainable. I mean, he's just been, whoever's had him all this time, it feels like he's been lugging him around and not getting much to show for it. So I think if you made a respectable offer, it'd be pretty attainable.
Somebody on Twitter asked me what I would offer for Eloy, and it's always hard to give a precise answer, but I was thinking a pitcher in like the 30 to 40 range, Scott, someone like a Logan Gilbert or a Nestor Cortez or Zach Gallen. I don't know how realistic that is. Like maybe you have to toss in another lesser piece to get it done, but it's kind of the idea that I had.
I think it sounds too high to me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if you're trying to buy low, I don't know that I'd give up a pitcher that good for Eloy Jimenez.
Fair.
You know, to some degree, it depends on the scoring format. It's easier to do, I guess, in a standard roto with 5 outfielders and fewer pitcher spots to fill. Maybe you can give up the pitcher easier. But no, I'd aim a little lower than that.
All right. On the pitching side of things for July, the ERA leader was Dylan Cease, 0.76. Carlos Carrasco was the only other starter who had an ERA under 1 for the month. WHIP leader, Cole Irvin, 0.65. All those starts against the Astros where he just absolutely crushes them. And, it's going to add up to an amazing WHIP. Merrill Kelly, 0.77 WHIP. He had a phenomenal month as well. Your wins leader was Dylan Cease. He had 5 wins. Strikeouts, his former teammate, Carlos Rodon, had 53 strikeouts with the Giants. And then your saves leader, we had 4 tied with 7 saves each. Edwin Diaz, Jordan Romano, Daniel Bard, and Tanner Scott, all of whom seem like they will remain their team's closers throughout the trade deadline. We'll see what happens with the Marlins. Other, I guess, deeper metrics for pitchers. Scott, how about this? Things that I like to look at a lot for pitchers: K- walk rate, Sierra, that's skill interactive ERA. It's kind of like XFIP, but it takes it a little bit further. And then swinging strike percentage. Your leader for all 3 categories in July, Shohei Ohtani.
All right. Good for Shohei.
That's crazy, man. His Sierra was 1.78. His swinging strike rate, 19.5%. He's good.
Yeah,
good.
I wonder, I mean, there's some debate whether it's going to be him MVP again or Aaron Judge, who's of course having a historic season. And I think it's a fair debate. But where do you think Shohei Ohtani is going to place just in Cy Young voting?
I hadn't thought about it. I'm sure he will get knocked a little bit because he won't finish with as many innings as other pitchers.
Yeah, but I got to feel like he's going to get some votes.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think he's going to win it, but
I guess I would have to pull up the rest of the pit, like at probably top 5, right, in the American League at least. Like Shane O'Mac, Shane McClanahan, and Justin Verlander are kind of battling for that top spot right now.
mm-hmm.
Eric Cole's having a very good season. Like he'll probably get some votes.
Alek Manoah, Dylan Cease. There are some candidates, but
I can see top 5.
Yeah, he could.
It's possible. Speaking of Aaron Judge, you mentioned he hit his 43rd home run of the season here on Monday. And I saw this stat from Joel Sherman. Judge has 43 home runs in the Yankees' first 104 games this season. Barry Bonds had 45 homers in the Giants' first 104 games back in 2001 when he hit 73 homers. So a lot of people will point to 61, Roger Maris, Aaron Judge kind of chasing that record and I guess trying to surpass it as well. But I don't think Bonds' record is like within strikeable distance for Aaron Judge, but I don't know. Based on that stat,
based on that stat, it is. But yeah, it would take. I have a hard time believing he'll be able to sustain his July pace over August and September. So, but yeah, could he exceed 60 at this point? I think that's very much within reach.
All right, let's get back over to some pitching from Monday. We had a few pitchers duels here. Nathan Eovaldi at Luis Garcia. Eovaldi went 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 unearned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. However, the velocity was still down big in this start. 2 miles per hour on each of the fastball, the cutter, and the curve for Nathan Eovaldi. Luis Garcia on the other side, 7 innings, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts. He had 13 swinging strikes, and he's having a fine season, Scott. 3.81 ERA, over a strikeout per inning, 13% swinging strike rate. That is Luis Garcia. Anything you'd like to add on him and Eovaldi in these 2 starts?
Yeah, I don't trust it for Eovaldi with his velocity down that much. His previous 3 starts since returning from the the injury, he had an 11.08 ERA in them. And it's, losing that much velocity. He's a pitcher who depends quite a bit on velocity. And so I think this start at Houston is going to be more the exception than the rule if he doesn't get it back up.
All right, let's move over to one other pitcher's duel. Daniel Lynch at Michael Kopech. Was it actually a pitcher's duel or just inept offense? I guess maybe a little bit of each. Daniel Lynch, 5 1/3 shutout innings, 6 hits, 0 walks, 7 strikeouts for him. His first start back from the IL. He was dealing with a blister. I kind of feel like there could be something here, Scott, with Daniel Lynch. Lefty, throws mid-90s, has a very good slider. Third pitch isn't great. He needs some refinement, but I kind of feel like there's something there. And then Michael Kopech was very good on the other side. 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts to 1 walk. Velocity up 1 mile per hour on the fastball in this one, nearly 2 miles per hour on his slider. Still didn't get, many whiffs or strikeouts. What do you think here on Lynch and Kopech?
Yeah, that was my takeaway for Kopech too. It was nice to see the velocity improve, but it didn't really show up in the ways we would expect it to. So I'm still not sure what his long-term prognosis is. And I agree with you on Daniel Lynch. I mean, it's not a stretch to say that there's upside here because, he was considered, I believe the Royals, there was Bobby Witt still, but he was among the Royals' top prospects, their best pitching prospects, certainly coming into last year. And is at least shown he's capable of missing bats. And that's the most important thing. If you're a pitcher breaking into the league, if you can miss bats, you have a major tool to work with. And so I think his focus going forward is going to be limiting walks and maybe cutting down on the fly balls so he's not so vulnerable to the home run. But I think Daniel Lynch remains something of a dynasty league asset. Sure.
All righty. Let's move over to a few other pitching standouts from Monday. Max Scherzer now has 6 straight quality starts since returning from the IL. He went 6 2/3. He allowed 3 runs. 2 of those were earned with 5 strikeouts. Mike Clevinger, another great start against the Rockies. 7 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 15 swinging strikes in this one. Lowers his ERA to 3.13. And Andrew Heaney, another solid start. I wouldn't call this one a banger, Scott, but it was solid.
It's a banger, Frank.
He just didn't go that deep into his starts.
I didn't in the last one either.
4 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts here for Andrew Heaney. What do you think about these 3?
I definitely like Clevinger for starters. Well, I guess I like all 3. Definitely like Scherzer. Clevinger, I talked about him after his last start. He's one of my breakout players for the second half, and so far so good. Last 3 starts have been excellent, 6+ innings in 5 of his last 6, and he just looks like the Clevinger we all knew and loved before the Tommy John surgery, despite all the fits and starts this season. And Andrew Heaney, he hasn't had a bad start yet. He does need to start going deeper. Obviously, newly back from injury. You cut him some slack for now. But I definitely like what I'm seeing from him.
All righty. Let's talk about some hitters. Finally, what do we have first? I would like to acknowledge the Cleveland Guardians middle infielders, Scott. They've both been very good this season. Andres Gimenez has been even better than Amed Rosario. He went 4 for 5 with 3 steals on Monday, 303 batting average for the season, 12 homers, 11 steals. That is a near 2020 pace over 150 games. He's performing well against lefties this season. That's Andres Gimenez. And Amed Rosario went 3 for 6, hit his 5th home run. He's batting .293 overall with 10 steals. Since the start of June, this is 56 games now for Rosario. He's hitting .333, all 5 of his homers, 37 runs, 27 RBI. Scott, I know you don't typically like Amed Rosario all that much, but he's performing, as is Andres Gimenez. So wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah, they are fine. They have become solid contributors this year. I don't think either has stud potential, but they've been good, obviously.
All right. Jimenez especially. I mean, I think his ADP was like, I don't know, outside of the top 300, and he's really only being targeted in deeper leagues. I'm kind of filibustering here because I did want to see where he ranks for the season in Roto. He is
Well, with 3 additional stolen bases in this game, that's probably going to change the calculation quite a bit. So he went from 8 to 11 stolen bases in Monday's game here.
So even before Monday's huge game for Jimenez, he was the 77th overall player in Roto category leagues this year.
I find that
That's massive.
77th overall hitter or player?
77th player overall.
I could probably come up with 77 players I want more than Andres Jimenez. But
I agree with you, but I mean,
fair
it
enough.
just goes to show how great he really has been. Let's evaluate some rookie hitters here. Adley Rutschman went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles. And over his last 40 games, he's batting .294 with 5 home runs, 18 doubles, 21 walks to 26 strikeouts, an 11% barrel rate, ton of line drives. And Scott, I feel like the old adage was, young player comes up, hits a lot of doubles. Hopefully those turn into home runs as they become more comfortable in the league, which I still think is a very realistic possibility for Adley Rutschman. But even if it doesn't, he looks like he is going to be a head-to-head points star based on his plate discipline, the doubles, ability to get on base. Just, he looks like he's going to be amazing. And the plate appearances too, right? Like, he's going to DH. He's going to play catcher. He looks like he's going to be an absolute stud in that format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think we have. It's going to be kind of a debate. I think the top 5 at catcher next year. I think you're going to have. I think Rutschman deserves to be in the running. Salvador Perez, of course. I think Kirk is in that discussion. Alejandro Kirk, and then Will Smith. And I guess Wilson Contreras would have to be in the discussion. I mean, maybe JT Realmuto will still be. I mean, we're kind of. I don't know if I would necessarily put all those guys in the same tier, but you could certainly make the case that they are, and that's as big a top tier catcher as we've had in a long time,
and potentially even more talent coming on the way.
Yes,
all the prospects, Gabriel Moreno and Francisco Alvarez and Austin Wells with the Yankees, if he remains on the Yankees.
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot more than that. Even there's a lot of guys I'd probably put ahead of Austin Wells. Even, the number 1 draft pick last year, Henry Davis.
Yeah, that's true. Tyler Soderstrom. I didn't even mention him with Oakland.
Yeah. No, I don't think I kind of don't think Tyler Soderstrom's going to last at catcher. He'll probably make it up to the majors somewhere else. And the same probably goes for Austin Wells too. But for now, they're catcher prospects.
All right. 2 other rookies I just wanted to take a look at here and get your thoughts, Scott. Alek Thomas went 3 for 5 with a run scored. He's kind of slowed down. He's batting .252. He's got 7 homers, 4 steals in 71 games. So it's like a modest 15-10 pace for the season. A lot of ground balls. He's been very bad against lefties. And Jarren Duran went 2 for 4, hit his second home run. He accounted for all 3 of the Red Sox RBI in this game. Overall, he's hitting .245 with 2 homers, 7 steals in 37 games. Lots of strikeouts, lots of ground balls for Jarren Duran. What do you think about those 2? Where are you at on Alek Thomas and Duran?
I like Duran more right now because he does have that stolen base element that really Alek Thomas hasn't provided in a meaningful way. Duran, he sits a little more often, but for the most part, he's starting like 5 times a week and generally batting at the top of the lineup when he is and stealing bases. So I think he's the better option. Thomas has kind of been underwhelming, especially lately. And I consider dropping him in a deep 5 outfielder roto league. Ultimately decided not to, but I don't see him as like a bankable starter right now by any stretch.
All right. I mentioned for Alek Thomas that he struggled against lefties. Jarren Duran has really struggled against lefties as well. So they kind of both have that issue right now. JJ Bleday, we talked about recently. We're weren't, overly excited about him coming up, maybe in deeper leagues to take a shot, but he went 0 for 4 on Monday with 3 strikeouts. He's now batting 167 with a 37% strikeout rate. So
yeah,
not looking very good for JJ Bleday, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably going to get sent down soon.
All right, let's quickly rank these corner infielders. Alas, another day. We've got to mention Jose Miranda. He went 2 for 4 with 3 RBI. He's up to 70% rostered. Nice to see. Finally climbing there. Nate Lowe went 3 for 4. He is now batting 280 overall with 15 home runs in 97 games. He's got that launch angle up this season. Love to see it. And then Trey Mancini, who we mentioned in our emergency podcast earlier on Monday, he got traded to the Astros. Should be a huge upgrade for him. It's got all 3 of these guys are right around 70% rostered. How would you rank them if you need a corner infielder? Miranda, Nate Lowe, Trey Mancini.
Miranda's the easy one to put number 1. Obviously, he's third base eligible, and he has been, since that 5 for 53 start, his numbers have looked very much like what he put up between AA and AAA last year when he was arguably the best performer in all the minors. So very excited about Jose Miranda. Now, it's a tougher call between Nathaniel Lowe and Trey Mancini. If you didn't catch it, if you didn't catch the emergency podcast we put out earlier today, both for the Josh Hader trade, and then there was one breaking down the Frankie Mollentoss trade that also included this Trey Mancini trade. There's a reason we haven't talked about them in depth on this podcast, because we already talked about them. So be sure you don't miss those. But what's notable about Trey Mancini is he pulls the ball in the air more than the usual hitter. And because of the dimension changes at Camden Yards this year, it was like a worst case scenario for him, because now it's just so hard for somebody to hit it over that left field fence. Minute Maid Park, where the Astros play, on the other end of the spectrum, they got that short porch in left field. You're talking a difference of dozens of feet in straightaway left between those two ballparks. And so fittingly, according to StatCast, if Trey Mancini had played all of his games at Minute Maid Park this year, he would have 22 home runs instead of the 10 he has. So that's a big park upgrade for him. Obviously, he won't be playing all his games at Minute Maid Park, just the home ones, but still, it's a much better home environment for him now. So I'm going to give him the edge over Nathaniel Lowe, but I do want to point out for Lowe that just since the start of June, where the launch angle really started to improve for him, he's batting 286 with an 850 OPS. I mean, if you had said you were going to get those numbers from Nathaniel Lowe at the start of the season, he probably would have been in a top 20, drafted as a top 20 first baseman.
I mean, of all the amazing things that have happened this season, Nathaniel Lowe and Andres Jimenez just kind of breaking out together. This is just beautiful. I love it. Some hitting leftovers from Monday. If there's anything else that stands out here, Scott, just stop me and feel free to talk about it. Mention Aaron Judge hit his 43rd home run. Anthony Rizzo has now homered 3 games in a row. He is up to 26 homers. Jose Trevino had a double dong. He is up to 9 home runs total. He had 9 career home runs entering this season. The Mets big boppers were out. Pete Alonso went 2 for 3 with 2 walks and his 27th home run. Francisco Lindor hit his 18th, and Brandon Nimmo went 4 for 5 with a double and a run scored. If this is the last game for Juan Soto in a Nationals uniform, he went out in style. It was a very good game. 1 for 1, 3 walks, a sock and a shoe, 21st homer, 6th steal, and that homer came off of Max Scherzer. So obviously pretty impressive. Dalton Varsho went 2 for 4 with his 14th homer. Christian Walker went 2 for 5 with his 24th homer. I keep waiting for the batting average to climb a little bit for Christian Walker. He's hitting 203. His 187 BABIP is lowest among qualified hitters. And his expected batting average is 247. So,
yeah. Well, it only went down in July. He had a bad month. It's good to see him get off to a good start here in August.
I think he hit something like 186 in July. It was rough. Cedric Mullins went 2 for 4 with his 9th homer. He added 2 RBI and 3 runs scored. Corey Seager returned from his leg injury and hit his 24th homer. His career high is 26. Have a good feeling he will pass that. And
Yep.
Trey Turner hit his 17th home run of the season as well. The call to the bullpen for the Reds, Hunter Strickland entered with a 3-run lead. He gave up a run on 2 hits, but picked up his 7th save of the season. For the Diamondbacks, Mark Melancon entered with a 1-run lead in the 10th inning. He had a ghost runner on second, and he allowed that run to score. He then starts the 11th, and he does the same exact thing. He takes his 10th loss of the season. He's had to give up a lot of these like ghost runners, Scott, because every time I see that his ERA is only in the 4s, I can't believe it. I feel like Mark Melancon's ERA should be over 10. Like every time he's out there, he gives up a run. It's how is it only 4 something? I don't know.
You said it's his 10th loss of the season.
10th loss.
We're 2/3 of the way. So he's a relief pitcher on pace for 15 losses. That's hard to do. I mean, maybe it's it's not as hard to do with the ghost runner rule.
Yeah, that has to be it. He has to give up a lot of those runs because his ERA is 4.66. It feels like he's been a lot worse than that. I don't know. For the Red Sox, Tanner Houck struck out 1 for his 7th save. Garrett Whitlock did pitch 2 innings on Sunday. For the Royals, Scott Barlow pitched the final 2 innings for his 17th save. And then the Padres, obviously Josh Hader not in uniform yet. Nick Martinez recorded 4 outs across the 8th and 9th. And then he had a 3-run lead. He allowed 2 batters to reach. He was pulled for Luis Garcia, who recorded the final 2 outs for his 2nd save. And I do apologize to anyone who added Luis Garcia on Sunday because just bad timing. I'm sorry. To stream or not to stream, let's wrap up with this. On Tuesday, Graham Ashcraft at the Marlins, Braxton Garrett versus the Reds, Chris Archer versus the Tigers, Keegan Thompson at the Cardinals, Jordan Lyles at the Rangers, Spencer Howard versus the Orioles, Cutter Crawford at the Astros, Brad Keller at the White Sox, and Cole Irvin at the Angels.
There are a few I like here. I'm trying to remember what order I ranked them in my sleeper pitchers article so that I can be consistent here. Because I think I ranked, okay, I got it open here now. I ranked Braxton Garrett ahead of Cole Irvin. I wasn't sure about those two. So obviously pretty good matchup, Garrett against Cincinnati. Amazing matchup, Irvin at the Angels, and he's coming off an amazing month, but trust the skill set for Garrett a little more. Either of them would be fine streamers. And I also don't mind Graham Ashcraft at the Marlins. Good matchup there.
All right. Wednesday, we have Yusei Kikuchi at the Rays, Madison Bumgarner at the Guardians, Kyle Bradish at the Rangers, Brady Singer at the White Sox, and Mike Minor at the Marlins.
Only one of those I can really get behind is Brady Singer at the White Sox. Yusei Kikuchi at Tampa. That may turn out okay, but I'm not ready to trust him yet.
Brady Singer is 79% rostered on CBS, and he is 50% rostered on Yahoo. So if you need a daily streamer there, could be available. Brady Singer at the White Sox on Wednesday. We're going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thank you all for listening and watching Fantasy Baseball today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.